Session of the Aurora City Council for Monday, November 18, 2024 is called to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor, can I switch over?
What's that?
I have to switch over. I have to switch to the meeting.
We should.
Okay.
All right, all in, we're ready to start study session.
Give Katie 2 seconds to kind of get us to order.
We're good.
Okay.
We're good.
This is 5 this time, so.
Study session of the Aurora City Council for Monday, November 18, 2024 is called to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Kaufman.
Here.
Councilmember Bergen. Here. Councilmember Coombs. Present. Councilmember Gardner. Councilmember Hancock. Here. Councilmember Drinsky. Here. Councilmember Lawson. Here. Councilmember Medina. Councilmember Murillo.
Present.
Councilmember Sundberg.
No mayor's updates. Are there any issue updates? Seeing none, is there any opposition to moving the consent calendar forward? Item number 2A through 2I.
Mayor,
Councilmember Hancock.
I'd like to pull items 2B through 2I.
2B through 2I?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Then a
I'm
question.
sorry, Mayor, correction, 2C through 2I.
Okay. All right, then question before us is the adoption of item 2A and 2B of the consent calendar. Is there any objection? Seeing none, item number 2A and 2B will move forward. Item number 2C, homeless notice of funding opportunity application recommendations, Aurora Housing Authority, home tenant-based rental assistance. Emma Knight for a brief presentation. Please proceed. Okay. Or Emma, will you be able to present on all of them then?
Yes.
Very well.
Yes, I'll be presenting on all the items. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm a night manager of homeless programs for the city of Aurora. I will go through this really quickly. This is the same NOFO we do every year for our homeless services funding. Let's go. Maybe. There we go. This is open to nonprofits, faith-based organizations, and public agencies who have specific skills in providing services to families experiencing homelessness. We focused on families this year due to the Aurora Regional Navigation Campus being only for single adults starting in 2025. So our typical funding this year was only for family service providers. So in total, we had $213,000 available for Emergency Solutions Grant. That is federal funding from HUD. Our home tenant-based rental assistance is $200,000. We get that amount every single year, also from HUD. And our local funding this year, we had $550,000 available of marijuana funding and $156,000 of public safety funding. And the rest of our typical funding that we have, the $2 million, is going to advance in 2025, which is why we have a somewhat lower amount available for other agencies. Just a quick comparison of years past of how much we had available for other agencies, with again remembering that the $2 million is going to the navigation campus, so is still going towards homelessness funding. And just a quick overview of our panel recommendations for each agency. So the Aurora Housing Authority, we are recommending at $300,000 for rapid rehousing and homelessness prevention, which is case management and housing navigation and assistance for folks getting back into housing. Also Aurora Housing Authority for the home TBRA, $200,000, and that is rental assistance, security deposit assistance. They're the only ones who applied for that funding source. Aurora Mental Health, we are recommending them at $25,000. That's specifically for the ACOT activations. They provide a mental health clinician for those activations.
Real quick, just for the acronym challenged,
Yes,
ACOT
I
stands for?
apologize. Yes, my apologies. ACOT is the Aurora Cold Weather Outreach Team. They go out when we have cold weather activations, which is 20 degrees or below, or cold and precipitating. Let's see. And the home TBRA was the tenant-based rental assistance program. We are recommending Mile High Comitis at $138,219 of the Emergency Solutions Grant. That's only able to be used for sheltering. And Bridge House Ready to Work. This is the only agency that is not family services, and we recommended them because they were one of the only agencies that can do rapid rehousing and homelessness prevention outside of the Housing Authority. And due to our good relationship with Bridge House, we decided we should recommend them for the ESG funding. Family Tree, we recommended at $100,000 of marijuana, and Gateway Domestic Violence at $150,000 of marijuana as well. So those are our recommendations. I'm going to skip some of this and go down to.
I'm sorry, can you go back to the Aurora Housing Authority
Certainly.
and explain that one, because
Certainly.
they have a fairly robust budget.
Yeah, so we're recommending them at $300,000. They by far do the most housing of folks experiencing homelessness. They have the best outcomes. Of all of our, between them, Family Tree, Ready to Work, and Comitis, for example, they have the highest percentage of positive exits from the program into housing. In Q3 alone, they were at 100% exits into housing. And the next highest from Q3 was 59%, and that was Family Tree. That's why we recommended them at $300,000. They are housing the most people of all of our agencies based off of this year's performance
What does that mean,
measures.
housing, is that?
I'm sorry?
What is that a housing voucher, or what does that mean?
No, so they help people with the housing navigation. They specifically work with families. They help them get into hotels while they're getting back on their feet, and then help them find housing, and then do case management to keep them in housing for a certain amount of time.
Is this all families?
Yes, families only for the housing authority.
So, real quick, just, is this our housing navigator you want to talk a little bit about in terms of how that process just works in terms of finding just the different landlords that they communicate with and
Housing
how
navigation,
yeah.
yes. Yeah, so this program does include a landlord recruiter. Something that's really important in housing navigation is just finding landlords that are willing to take folks who maybe have some higher barriers, or just finding landlords that have lower prices on rent, which is really important with this population.
Councilmember Bergen.
Yes, thank you. So for the Aurora Housing Authority on the rehousing homelessness, do they only help Aurora residents?
Yes.
They're not helping Denver residents?
That's correct.
Okay. And then you mentioned Family Tree was like at 59%. Do we refer them to these different agencies?
Yes, we do.
Okay, and is there a reason why Family Tree would not be at a higher percentage than 59? I mean,
it just depends on the agency. I'm not sure why. That's something we're looking at closer with their metrics, and we've been working really closely with all of our nonprofits this year to keep on them about making sure that they're delivering what we're expecting them to, which is why we are recommending rewarding the Housing Authority, because they had such good outcomes.
thank you.
Mayor?
Councilmember Hancock.
So the Aurora Housing Authority, do they also give apartment communities, they pay rent for folks?
The funding.
Is that part of this, that's what this is?
Yeah, some of it is that rental assistance or like first month's rent deposit. It's primarily the navigation and case management to help those folks stay housed. It can often be a difficult transition from going from homelessness back into housing, going back into learning all the rules of renting and things like that.
So is it ongoing or is it just a one-time?
The rental assistance or the rental assistance is one time.
And can I ask a question about Comitas? Because I know in your last few reports in the Public Safety Committee, you talked about people accessing Comitas, and often you're saying that folks don't accept Comitas as an option for housing. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So Comitas is switching to only families. They are no longer taking single adults right now outside of their substance abuse treatment floor. The rest of the facility is now only families, which is a change, as they had 2 floors of single adults previously. So people have been saying yes more to family sheltering. So I don't see that being an issue of them not being full.
They're still going to be taking individuals in the substance abuse part of the program.
Yes, the substance
In the
abuse.
same, so you're going to have adult males, say, in the same building as you're going to have families.
Yes, that is still something that it will be happening there. We would love for them to move away from that eventually and maybe have that be somewhere else outside of Comitas. It is best practice to have only families in a building.
Councilmember Coombs.
So some of the folks that are on that floor are members of the families that are being sheltered at Comitas that are separate from their families receiving treatment in the adult treatment portion.
Some, but not all.
Some, but not all. And of course, there are ongoing plans for what the future of both the family sheltering and serving individuals looks like beyond the current space and the current process. But as they're in transition, that's one of the services that they're maintaining, because it's one of the services that they've been requested to maintain, to provide that service to the community, while we are also in a transition where we are now providing all of the services to everyone. So it's not a permanent approach.
How are we documenting that?
Documenting.
How this separation that Councilmember Coombs referenced is being, how are we documenting who is who and what's, or is it anonymous? I mean, how does she know that information? Because
I'm on the
we haven't
board.
gotten it.
Yes.
I'm on the board. I attend the board meetings, so I'm reporting to you all as the board representative from Mile High Behavioral Health Care.
They do document, though, in HMIS, at least for the family floor, the substance use floor. I believe that would be HIPAA protected, so we don't get that information.
But they're physically separated.
Yes, they are physically separated. There's a door that has separate access to it.
Councilmember Sundberg, then Councilmember Bergen.
For what period of time is this for?
This is 2025 only.
2025.
Yes.
And we're preparing for families as we anticipate the navigation center opening, which will also be for families.
The navigation campus will only be single adults.
Not at all, okay.
Yes.
I'd just add, this is for only 2025, as we're still in a transitional year with the navigation campus anticipated to be opening in the fall of 2025. And so we may even see changes and a reduction to these numbers for 2026, but this is where we're at for 2025, with still funding some things a little bit that aren't family, but very focused on family only this year. And then just reiterating that all of this funding is restrictive to homelessness as well. And especially the HUD funds are very restrictive in what we can fund. And so we decided to put more of the HUD funding into this than into the navigation campus, so the navigation campus can be flexible.
Councilmember Bergen.
So since now they're doing really families primarily, other than the substance abuse part of Comitas, I would imagine, since our navigation center is only doing men, right? Single men, or is it?
Single adults.
Singles, okay, singles, that they, I mean, that opens up more opportunities for families at Comitas that need assistance. And then I guess Aurora Housing, it's for families and singles, is that right? Or
It's just families, the
just
housing
families
authority.
also?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Further questions?
I have one more, Mayor.
Councilmember Hancock.
Gateway domestic violence is mothers and children? Is it fathers and children, or is it just mothers and children?
It can be fathers and children or mothers and children. Just it's domestic violence, so it can be for anyone.
Okay. Is this just a 2C, or are you covering it all?
This is for all of them.
For all, fantastic, great.
Yes.
Okay, further questions or comments?
Okay, I'll just skip to the question if there are no more.
Further questions or comments? That is our,
Just a real quick comment, if my math is correct, the marijuana revenue is a decrease of 86%.
Just go back to the table that showed the housing charts.
Certainly.
So
From
this
previous
is
years?
only the funding going towards this NOFO. So the rest of the
Oh, I see.
marijuana
Gotcha.
revenue is going to advance for the operations of
Yes.
the
Okay,
navigation
thank you.
campus.
Gotcha.
Yes.
I'd like to publicly say that I was at a marijuana store on Saturday with APD. I was a ride-along. Okay.
Any recommendations?
Okay, so, the question before, are there any more discussion on the adoption, or the,
They're suing us.
item number 2C through 2I of the consent calendar? Seeing none, is there any objection to moving item 2C through 2I forward? Then they will move forward. Item number 4A, boards and commissions update, city manager.
So this is in response. This is in response to the questions we've had from council. We've had a number of discussions from council just in terms of over the years, in terms of what we've doing in terms of the different boards or commissions. So let me go ahead and pull you up the current listing of the different boards and commissions that we have. So hopefully you all can see that. It's in your backup, but also shared it there. So we have 29 boards or commissions that are advisory, I would say mostly advisory in natures. And there's 297 members spread out amongst those. So we do have several boards or commissions that have a, I will say, quasi-judicial function, and so I'll let the city attorney expand on that if you all have questions, but I'll highlight some of them for you. So the Board of Adjustments and Appeals, the Building Code Contractors Appeals and Standards, the Career Service, the Civil Service, and the Planning and Zoning Commission are all have what I, again, as a layman, I've commonly say is a quasi-judicial. So they provide a decision. There's an appeals process to that, but they are making a decision. The rest of those are advisory in nature, and the charter actually lays out that unless specifically authorized in the charter, boards or commissions shall be advisory. So when we're talking about the functions of these boards or commissions, they're advisory. They're here. They're to advise you all in terms of the different areas that they look at. So you see those different boards or commissions. There's 297 members. There is some overlap. We have different members that serve potentially on multiple boards, but overall, we're looking for about 297 different citizens that are taking their time and staff time to then learn about what's going on and provide you all advice and in terms of feedback in terms of what's going on there. So as you can see from just looking at this, there are some boards or commissions, there are some departments that have multiple boards and commissions. There's some boards or commissions that have very broad remits. I'll when I was a budget officer, you can see Greg up there. Obviously, Citizens Advisory Budget Committee has a very broad remit. They're looking at kind of all things budget and advising council on that. And then I'll look at other ones that are very, very, very specific, right? That sort of golf course advisory commission. It's golf course is a very specific component of our parks, recreation, and open space offerings. So you kind of see what that looks like there. So. Really want to kind of start here and just, I think we've heard that from council. There's difficulty in filling these vacancies at times. I think there's questions about what some of these different folks do. I think when you have this many different boards or commissions out there, we haven't done, I think, a holistic look at this since I've been here to really look at, all the different boards or commissions that are active, see what your thoughts are, and then, look at, is there a possibility to consolidate? Is there a possibility to realign some of these things? And really just make sure that they're serving the function that you all want, because again, these are advisory to council, and we want to make sure that we're aligning them and you all are getting the advice and feedback that you're looking for and you find is useful to you all.
Councilmember Bergen.
So with this information you're providing us, are you going to do a little bit deeper dive into, for example, you mentioned hard to fill sometimes positions, vacancies or whatever, and which ones don't have a quorum, and possibly consolidation of like-minded boards. So is that something you guys will maybe come back with an analysis to present to us?
We could, I think, and that's one of the things I want to have this conversation, if that's something you all want to do.
Yes.
Katie, how many vacancies do we currently have?
We have 56.
So we have 56 vacancies. So we have, out of 300, 56 is, that's almost 20% vacancies,
Can
that sort of.
With that, can we also have an analysis of the staff time?
We could, yeah. I mean, it's one of those where I will tell you, typically most boards or commissions meet monthly. They typically, meet for, I'd say, an hour to 2 hours. Typically staff are spending, I would say, probably, at least a couple hours preparing for that meeting, a couple hours following up. So I'd say most staff are probably, we're spending, and depending on the board or commission, it could be one or more staff. So we can certainly get you an estimate on how many we're doing to support those.
I think we have way too many. Councilmember Jaworski.
I agree. And Jason, for me, I thought that the direction was already given because that's why we delayed making some appointments. So I thought the direction was already given that you were going to come with a consolidated.
We've got some looks at this. We can, and that's one of the things I want to kind of start at the beginning, which is again, and I want to hear the feedback from council. But I think staff have looked at this. We certainly see some areas where we might want to consolidate, but we didn't want to get ahead of this. We wanted to hear council's feedback. I think if council gives us that direction to look at this more in depth, we could do that and certainly come back to you all with some recommendations.
Councilmember Coombs.
So there has been some looking at this that has been done in the time that I've been on council on the PR Plus committee. And one of the things that I found in looking at other cities is one of the things they'll do is have like a larger committee or commission that meets quarterly, and then subcommittees for relevant kind of similar tasks that then meet in between those quarterly meetings. And so that can help reduce the staff time, reduce the time that the commissioners are spending, as well as kind of streamline the meetings. So that's something I would recommend kind of looking at as an option for some of these that have similar staff that are working on them and similar kind of overlapping purposes.
Councilmember Jaworski.
And whether or not that's a good idea or not, I have no idea how those are run. But I think for me, the direction would be to, look at some options, whatever that may look like, and come back with the consolidation, because I agree with the mayor, we have too many, and we're not filling the vacancies.
Councilmember Bergen?
Yeah, I mean, to everyone's points that have spoken, yeah, I'm very interested in us looking at that and just making it more efficient. Just, I think, we don't want to send the message that somebody's board or commission is not important, but to Councilmember Coombs' point, I mean, there's a lot that are under parks, open space, and so forth that could probably be brought together, and then based on what projects they work on, maybe then would be subcommittees or something. But there's certainly, we don't need all these different ones
Yeah, let's see a
listed.
plan.
Councilmember Gardner?
So I think it's council's job to make policy, not staff's job, and I don't think it should be up to staff. The onus should be on staff to come back with recommendations. If anybody on this body wants to see something, they should put the work into it and bring it back in front of us to vote on. But I don't think we should put staff in the position of basically having to say, these boards and commissions aren't important, and then coming back with a recommendation. Staff does not make policy, we make policy, and so I do not support
Yeah.
staff coming back with
And I didn't-
recommendations
if
at all.
I said that, that's not what I meant at all. I asked if we could, they could just get us more data and analysis of, how much, the vacancies, the lack of quorums, when they can't have a meeting. So I just would like to have the information, and of course, we would make the decisions.
I think if we had the information in terms of well, I think a definition of what they do specifically, and so where we can look at consolidating different ones, and also what the vacancy is on each one of them, and how long those vacancies have been there, because I think that'll give us an idea about where to trim. Councilmember Drinsky.
On most things, we take a recommendation from staff, so maybe it's not necessarily telling staff to do something, but I personally would like to hear, Brooke Bell is over a lot of these, some Ginger, so I would like to hear staff's recommendation before we just go jumping into taking this all on ourselves. If staff sees something that can be molded together, I would like to hear staff's recommendation.
Right, okay. Councilmember Summer.
I'd love to hear an honest opinion from staff. If it's ever possible, maybe I need to call them individually, like, hey, Justin Prosser, is this a waste of your time, or is this a laborious waste of your time, or is it beneficial and fruitful from a department or head basis? But how do you get that? I guess you need to make the calls. You don't want to throw them under the bus. But
what if we said that we wanted, so we have, did you say 270?
297 members,
297 members. How many different boards?
29 boards or commissions.
29?
There's something over.
Wow. Okay. Because we gave you a percentage. Okay. Councilmember.
As long as we get some data, and then I don't know, do we do an ad hoc committee to make that decision, to bring to, some of us, to bring that recommendation then back to council, or are we all just going to just individually?
Could do it in the PR Plus committee if
Oh,
other folks are interested.
Well, that would, okay.
Participate.
Well, that would make sense.
That's true.
We could just have a meeting dedicated to
Okay.
that.
To Councilmember Gardner's point, yeah, that would be council's policy setting process. We could go there, and again, and obviously it would come back to all of council, because this is something that you all would see reflected in ordinance, and so we could certainly
So is there any objection to moving for the PR committee to make a recommendation?
Object. Does the chair of the PR Plus object? No objection.
Well, we'll volunteer them. So, okay. So is there any objection to giving it to the PR committee to come forward with a recommendation? And then, anybody can then, obviously we can amend that
We
recommendation.
just figure out which meeting that's going to be at, and folks are welcome to attend if they have, strong feelings about things they'd like to bring.
in that interim period, I think you all have asked some easy to compile information, so we certainly can get you all that information in terms of just
Yeah, I'd like to see it.
the quorums, vacancies, all that, we can provide that very easily. So we can
Okay,
do that.
good. Okay, is there any further discussion on boards and commissions?
That's all I had. This was informational only, just want to kind of get guidance, and this is good guidance for us. Thank you.
7A, consideration to reappoint one member to the Planning and Zoning Commission, Katie Rodriguez.
Mayor and Council, Katie Rodriguez, City Clerk. Bob Roth is a current member of Planning and Zoning, and he has reapplied for another term. So this is for council to decide whether you want to reappoint Bob Roth or move forward with the interview schedule that you approved previously.
If you remember earlier, we came to you all a few weeks ago and said we had 3 vacancies, 2 interested in reappointment. You went ahead and moved forward with those 2 reappointments. We did advertise for that vacancy, and I think in that period, Planning Commissioner Roth decided he would like to seek reappointment, so we wanted to bring it forward, and it's your decision as to whether we reappoint or we continue with our vacancy process.
Is there any objection to reappointing Bob Roth to the Planning Commission? Seeing none, then that's the direction.
Okay. Thank you all.
Seeing no further business before the Aurora City Council study session, meeting's adjourned. We're on the floor at 6:30.